Auto repair shops only convert 25 to 30% of incoming calls into paying customers. Auto shops that have specific training for fielding phone calls convert 75 to 80% into paying customers. So just imagine how much money is being lost by not training the staff properly on how to field a phone call. The good news is you can triple that conversion rate by basic, simple training. With my advisors at my shop, I have found 3 basic steps that help keep that conversion rate high. So whenever we do get a call coming in, we can turn them into a customer. We've all had those calls where one of the first things that a customer asks is, how much does a service cost? Now in our industry, we are taught to try to avoid price shoppers at all costs. And while of course you don't want to spend too much time with the price shopper because they're just looking for the lowest price no matter what, typically price shoppers don't really value quality, all they value is the bottom dollar. But what I've found is that just because a customer starts off asking about price, 9 out of 10 times they're actually not a price shopper. What it comes down to is that most customers are not professional technicians. They have very little to no knowledge of cars or dealing with auto repair shops. So a lot of times when they do have an issue with their car and they start making phone calls, they really don't know what to ask. They don't know any other intelligent questions other than how much does it cost. A lot of times they're just trying to start a conversation and they're hoping some shop can help guide them through the process. So as an example, a customer called me just a few days ago, and this call is probably going to sound a lot like calls that you get almost every day. When I answered the call, there was a lady on the phone. I asked her how I could help her, and she said, yes, do y'all replace water pumps? I said, yes, ma'am, we absolutely do. And before I could almost finish my sentence, she cut me off and said, well, how much does that cost? This is the point of the conversation that a lot of shops will say, oh, this is a price shopper. And they'll try to get off the phone as fast as possible. Depending on the shop, they'll either say, we don't give phone quotes, or sometimes they'll say, typically it's $500 to $1,000, or they might take the time to actually make the estimate for the customer. In any case, these 3 ways of handling it is not the best way to handle it. You have to determine, is this a price shopper, or is this someone that actually does want help, but they just don't know any other way to start the conversation? So the first thing I teach my advisors whenever dealing with somebody that may be a price shopper is to go with the current. So you don't want to push back and say, we don't give out phone estimates, or you know what, we have to diagnose it first. Because for a lot of customers, when they do have an issue and they're calling repair shops, especially if they don't have a repair shop that they've used before, they're concerned with all the horror stories they've heard about the auto repair industry. Are they going to get ripped off? Are they going to get taken advantage of? And so early in the process, if you start pushing back at all, that's going to put them on the defensive, and you don't want to do that. You know, there's a principle in sales in general, which is always stay positive. So you always want to keep the conversation flowing. You never want to push back and offer any resistance. So at this point, what I told the customer is, absolutely, yes, ma'am, I'd be glad to get you a price on a water pump. I do need a little more information. So I asked her for the year, make, and model. She told me it was a 2016 Impala. I said, okay, ma'am, I'll be glad to get that worked out for you if you just give me a few minutes. Now, what I did, again, because I'm trying to ascertain, could this be a great customer or is this just a price shopper? So I went ahead and I asked her, I said, so why were you looking to have your water pump done? Was there like a certain symptom it's doing or something? And she responded back. She was still being pretty stern at this point. She responded back that the check engine light was on. I said, okay, no problem. And did you have the vehicle looked at or checked by anybody that told you it was a water pump? She said, well, a coworker of mine, he had a little computer that he hooked up to my car and he told me that it said it needed a water pump. Now, to all of us in the repair industry, we know how incredibly rare it is to have a check engine light for a water pump. So not only do we usually recommend a diagnostic to start with anyways, this is even more evidence that I'm not so certain that a water pump's going to fix your issue. But again, I don't want to push back too hard at this point. So this leads into another principle I teach my staff, which is take ownership of their problem. So no money is exchanged and nothing happens in our economy until someone has a problem. As an example, a couple of years ago, a hurricane came through the area that I lived, and a lot of people woke up the next morning with fences on the ground. Now, whenever you wake up and your fence in your backyard is flat on the ground, you have a problem. Now, normally these people had little to no interest in a fence, but whenever it gets knocked down, your interest goes from 0 to 60 instantly. So what most people do is they start calling on Google. And why do they even begin that process? Because they have a problem. And all the companies out there that fix, repair, or replace fences, they all specialize in that exact problem. So when a customer calls in, they have a problem. They're worried about it. They already have anxiety. They're worried about how much it costs, how long they'll have to go without their vehicle. So the person that takes ownership of their problem and that can actually show the customer that they can take care of their issue for them, that's usually the person who gets the work. So in order to take ownership of someone's problem, the first thing you have to do is ask them some questions of the problem. Like I already have started. I asked them the type of vehicle. I asked them about any symptoms. Now that I have an understanding of the issue that they have, I'm going to paint a picture for the customer of what we can do to solve the problem. So at that point, I went ahead and let the customer know, okay, I'm finishing up with the estimate on the water pump and I've got a price for you here, but one thing I do want to mention is that it's really unusual for an Impala to have a check engine light for a water pump. We just don't see that very often. Now, the water pump is part of the cooling system, and there are other components in there that can cause a check engine light and can cause a lot of issues. But usually with a water pump, we don't see a check engine light. Usually what you'll see is overheating, or you'll see coolant on the ground, things like that. And if you haven't been seeing that, I'm recommending to start with actually would be for us to perform some diagnostic testing on the vehicle so we can determine what's actually going on with it. And the only reason I mention this is I would hate for you to come in for a water pump, we replace it, and then you end up having the exact same problem. Now I told her the price for the water pump, let's say it's $750. And I said, and also the price on that diagnostic, that testing, so we could be certain of what the actual issue is, that's $179.95. And then from here I go immediately into schedule. Now as far as these two services, the water pump, I can schedule you for Wednesday, but that diagnostic, which again, I am recommending, I can actually get you in tomorrow morning, or you could drop it off today for us to check first thing in the morning. I do recommend the diagnostic, but if you want us to replace that water pump, I'll be glad to do that. Now at this point, as always in sales, I made the offer. I'm just going to sit and wait. If you notice, I didn't only take ownership of a problem by asking questions, I actually kind of painted a picture of the options that she has and the one that I would pick, being a professional in the industry. At this point, she thought about it and she said, maybe I should have that testing done. See, whenever you have a customer that's hesitant like that, that really kind of shows you how afraid people are of the auto industry because of horror stories that they've heard from years or decades ago, or they could just be made up stuff. But either way, that is something that we have to battle. So when a customer sounds a little unsure, they're not necessarily arguing or debating, they just need a little bit more assurance to help them make their decision. And when it comes down to it, whenever you have a service advisor, never forget they're not a service writer, they're an advisor. They're there to advise a customer on the best course of action. And so just like in the ancient days, you had the advisors of the king, they gave all the information to the king that the king needed to make the best decision, whether it be on a battlefield or an economic decision, whatever it was. Well, as a service advisor, you need to be able to be prepared to give the customer all the information they need to make the best decision for them. And so when she said, well, maybe I should get it tested, I'd say, yes, ma'am, I really would recommend that. These modern vehicles have so many different components. We really do need to go in there and check it. At this point, I went ahead and I kind of painted a picture for her so she could imagine coming in and what it would be like. And what I'm doing with that is I'm trying to help get rid of the fear of the unknown of the whole process. So I told her, so like as an example, if you did want to drop it off, you can come drop it off with us. We'll get you a little bit more information from you. And then tomorrow morning when the tech's available, he's going to start off with the test drive. He's going to scan the vehicle with the computer. Then at that point, we'll be able to scan the codes and see what circuits in the vehicle are actually affected. We also have databases that help us pinpoint that. And then we actually go in and physically check the vehicle. We'll pressure test the system to make sure there's no leaks. Once we do find the cause of that light, I'll work up an estimate for you. I'll call you, give you the price, and let you know the timeline of how quickly we can have it done for you. Then she thought for only a moment longer, and she said, okay, I think we'll go ahead and start with that. And then I said, okay, so I'll get you set up for tomorrow morning. Did you want to drop off today or in the morning? So to recap, the first step is to go with the current and keep it positive. Keep it about the result that the customer wants to have. Number two is to take ownership of their problem. The only way you can do that is if you understand the problem they have. So start off by asking some questions, and then whenever you give them options, make sure to explain the options in a step-by-step way that they can visualize while you're talking to them. The final step is give a yes or a yes option, never give a yes or a no option. If you found this video helpful, so please hit the like button and subscribe below. And as always, it is our mission to elevate the auto industry for its owners, for its employees, and for its customers. All right, God bless and have a great day.